I'm reading a great book right now. It's called Take the Stairs by Rory Vaden. If you don't know Rory, he's an outstanding coach, an outstanding motivational speaker, two-time New York Times bestselling author. And there's a concept in the book that I've talked about in both of my books. I talk about it a lot as a coach, but it bears repeating, and it's this. When we first start out doing something new to us, it's hard. It takes a lot of discipline. It's uncomfortable. It feels like a major sacrifice. And so often we get very wrapped up in the feelings of that. Oh, this doesn't feel good. This is taking time away from me watching television. It was easier to just stay on the couch instead of working out every day or putting in these extra hours at the office or trying something that's new and different, like going to Toastmasters and speaking in front of an audience, which kind of scares me. So we tend to give up on it. And that's unfortunate because the thing is causing us short-term pain, but because we give up on it so soon, we never get to the long-term gain. And so the rewards are delayed, and we have to hang in long enough and do hard things that make us uncomfortable to get to the reward and the gifts and the spoils that we had hoped to reap. And so doing that, but giving up early is a really bad idea. Rory talks about how it's the hardest at the beginning. And this was a concept that I've talked about with lots of people, but I haven't really said it lately. And Rory, reading it in his book, it reminded me how important it is. The worst part of something, doing something new, often is just thinking of it. Like, we don't enjoy thinking about going to the dentist. At least I don't. I don't enjoy thinking about being a woman and having to go get pap smears or mammograms. But oftentimes, by the time I go to these places, my health appointments, the dentist, I'm happy I'm there, I'm getting it over with, I'm doing something that I know is right, I'm keeping up with my health. It actually almost feels good to say, okay, well, that's done for another 6 months or year or 2 years. And so I think about it often when I'm driving home of like, that wasn't so bad. The hardest part was for like 3 months, just procrastinating and putting off calling them up and making the appointment. How many times do we do this? We just sit in this thought and this anxiety producing fear around like, oh, it's just gonna be so hard and difficult and I'm not gonna like that. I'll start next month. I'll start next year. I'll never start at all because getting started is tough. This reminds me of Isaac Newton's law of momentum and motion. A body in motion stays at motion, a body at rest stays at rest. If you look at the RPMs on your car, when are they highest? When you accelerate from a dead stop. Anytime we're stopped at a red light and then we go ahead and accelerate from zero, the RPMs skyrocket and then they return to a normal range, which is, 2,000, 3,000 RPMs a minute. For that moment or a couple of moments, they go to like 4,000 or 5,000, and that's because we were not in motion. So we're asking the car to do its hardest work, which is get to 60 miles an hour from zero. When we're already in motion, even if it's not the right motion, like, hey, we were going 60, okay, now I want to get over a couple lanes, I'm going to start going 80. The car handles that better than when it wasn't in motion at all. We are the same way. The hardest part is starting from a dead stop. So one of the things you can tell yourself when you start and it's really hard and you're wanting to give up is, hey, this is gonna get easier. If I just stick with it, if I just can get through this week or this month of initial movement and momentum, it's gonna get better. One of the things Rory talks about in his book, and I love this because it's so awesome, is that at some point that thing that you are doing that at first felt like a sacrifice really isn't a sacrifice anymore. And the analogy, the metaphor for this with me was running. When I first began to run, it was incredibly difficult for me. I did not want to go running. It was hard to get me out the door and get my running shoes on. I didn't want to do it, but I did want to become a runner. I wanted to get through that first half or full marathon. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to be proud. And so I was doing it with all these things in mind, but I didn't really like it. But I just decided to make the sacrifice and do it anyway. Here we are 8-9 years later since I became a runner. And what I can tell you is that I no longer view running as a sacrifice. I once did, now I don't. Now, not going running is a problem. People ask me all the time, Amy, how do you find the energy and the motivation and the inspiration and the gusto and the willpower to go work out and run almost basically every single day? Like, isn't that hard for you? And my answer is always the same. No, it's not hard anymore to go. It's hard not to go. And that's because I went so much and I became obsessed and addicted with the connection between running and how it makes me feel. I don't always want to go in the moment, and I sometimes have to drag myself out the door periodically, but at the end of the day, I can get to my reasons why so much faster now. Hey, you're gonna feel good when you're done with it. And you know that if you don't go, you start getting more and more out of shape, and that makes future runs harder. And running aligns with who you are as a person. You are not just a person who runs, you are a runner. It isn't what you do anymore, it's who you are. And so what I encourage you to do is think about all of these things when you're starting something new. How good you'll feel when it's done, if it aligns with who it is that you're trying to become, how hard it's supposed to be in the beginning, but how much easier it gets later. It may be a sacrifice now, but there might be someday that you don't view it as a sacrifice. It's become really part of who you are. It's something you actually want to do. It's something you choose to do. It's something you enjoy doing because of all the practice that you gave it and how good you got at it. And so saying, no, I'm going to turn my back on that new thing that I kind of am interested in and I really probably should be doing just because it's hard and uncomfortable and it's a big sacrifice now, that's a really bad value proposition. That's a really bad evaluation of the return on investment that you can get later. The reality is that all of the rewards, all of that money back and time back and wonderful things back in your pocket aren't going to come on day one of starting a new habit or making some sacrifice. They might not even come on day 30, but they are going to come and they're going to create for you the life that you really want. Ultimately, a quote I love, and Rory said something to the effect of this in his book, is if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. If you do what is hard, your life will be easy. And that's what I found with running. It was really hard in the beginning, but as I became a runner, it got easier. I made a lot of friends through running. I was able to travel and go to places I would have never visited. Running, doing that hard thing, has actually caused me to have this amazing life. But I had to be willing to do it up front and just trust and know that those spoils are gonna come later. When I was not doing hard things, I was doing easy things. I was sitting home on the couch a lot more often. I was kind of eating whatever I wanted. My life was harder. There would be moments that I'd have to go to a pool party or the beach and I hated how I looked. I was overweight and I felt chubby and I felt self-conscious and I was really regretting that I just didn't have that discipline to do the right things and feel good about my body. And that actually was an everyday thing that I had to live with. And that was actually much harder than it was just to get up and go do the thing. And so if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. If you do what is hard, your life will be easy. With that, I'd love to know what challenges you're facing that are difficult. I'd love to know what you need to get more momentum around. I'd love to know a change you've made, something that once felt really hard, now it's easy, something that felt like a sacrifice, now it feels joyful, or it's a sacrifice not to do it. We can change our position and our place in life through effort and consistent hard work. So don't give up on something just because it's hard. Be willing to make those sacrifices and know that how you feel about it is going to change over time if you keep at it. With that, everybody make a great day. I hope you're all smiling and enjoying a wonderful week out there. Thanks, guys.